There are some who believe that Buddhism is so lofty and sublime, a system that it cannot be practiced by ordinary men and women in this workaday world of ours, and that one has to retire from it to the monastery or to some quiet place if one decides to be a true Buddhist. This is a sad misconception, due evidently to a lack of understanding of the teaching of the Buddha. People run to such hasty and wrong conclusions as a result of their hearing or reading casually something about Buddhism written by someone who, as he has not understood the subject in all its aspects, give only a partial and lopsided view of it. The Buddha's teaching is meant not only for monks in monastery, but also for ordinary men and women living at home with their families. The Noble Eightfold Path, which is the Buddhist way of life, is meant for all, without distinction of any kind. The vast majority of people in the world cannot turn monk or retire into cave or forest. However noble and pure Buddhism may be, it would be useless to the masses of mankind if they could not follow it in their daily life in the world of today. But if you understand the spirit of Buddhism correctly, and not only it later, you can surely follow and practice it while living the life of an ordinary man. There may be some who find it easier and more convenient to accept Buddhism if they do live in the remote place, cut off from the society of others. Others may find that kind of retirement dulls and depresses their whole being both physically and mentally, and that it may not therefore be conducive to the development of their spiritual and intellectual life. True renunciation does not mean running away physically from the world. Sariputta, the chief disciple of Buddha, said that one man might live in the forest devoting himself to ascetic practice, but might be full of impure thought and defilement. Another might live in a village or a town, practicing no ascetic discipline, but his mind might be pure and free from defilement. Of these two, said Sariputta, the one who lives a pure life in the village or town is definitely far superior to and greater than the one who lives in the forest. The common belief that to follow the Buddha's teaching one has to retire from life is a misconception. It is clearly an unconscious defense against practicing it. There are numerous references in Buddhist literature to men and women living ordinary, normal family life who successfully practiced what the Buddha taught and realized nirvana. Vajrakata the wanderer, whom we met earlier in the chapter on anatta, once asked the Buddha straightforwardly whether there were laymen and women leading the family life who followed his teaching successfully and attained to high spiritual state. The Buddha categorically stated that there were not one or two, not 100 or 200 or 500, but many more laymen and women leading the family life who follow his teaching successfully and attain to high spiritual states. It may be agreeable for certain people to live a retired life in a quiet place, away from noise and disturbance, but it is certainly more praiseworthy and courageous to practice Buddhism living among your fellow beings, helping them and being of service to them. It may perhaps be useful in some cases for a man to live in retirement for a time in order to improve his mind and character as preliminary moral, spiritual and intellectual training, to be strong enough to come out later and help others. But if a man lives all his life in solitude, thinking only of his own happiness and salvation without caring for his fellows, this surely is not a keeping with the Buddha's teaching, which is based on love, compassion, and service to others. One might now ask, if a man can follow Buddhism while living the life of an ordinary layman, why was the Sangha, the order of monk, established by the Buddha? The order provides the opportunity for those who are willing to devote their life not only to their own spiritual and intellectual development, but also to the service of others. An ordinary layman with a family cannot be expected to devote his whole life to the service of others, whereas a monk who has no family responsibility or any other worldly ties is in a position to devote his whole life for the good of the many, for the happiness of the many, according to the Buddha's advice. That is how, in the course of history, the Buddhist monastery become not only a spiritual center, but also a center of learning and culture. The Sikala Sutta show with what great respect the layman's life, his family and social relations are regarded by the Buddha. A young man named Singala used to worship the 6 cardinal points of the heavens: east, south, west, north, nether, and zenith, in obeying and observing the last divine given him by his dying father. The Buddha told the young man that in the noble discipline of his teaching, the 6 directions were different. According to his noble discipline, the 6 directions were: east, parents; south, teachers; west, wife and children; north, friend, relative, and neighbors; nether, servant, workers, and employers, zenith, religious men. One should worship these 6 directions, said the Buddha. Here the word worship is very significant, for one worships something sacred, something worthy of honor and respect. These 6 family and social groups mentioned above are treated in Buddhism as sacred, worthy of respect and worship. But how is one to worship them? The Buddha said that one could worship them only by performing. one's duty toward them. These duties are expanded in his discourse to Sangha. First, parents are sacred to their children. The Buddha says, parents are called Brahma. The term Brahma denotes the highest and most sacred conception in Indian thought, and in it the Buddha includes parents. So in good Buddhist family, as the parents' time children literally worship their parents every day, morning and evening. They have to perform certain duty toward their parents according to the noble discipline. They should look after their parents in their own age, should do whatever they have to do on their behalf, should maintain the honor of the family and continue the family tradition, should protect the wealth earned by their parents, and perform their funeral rite. After their death, parents, in their turn, have certain responsibilities toward their children. They should keep their children away from evil causes, should engage them in the good and profitable activities, should give them a good education, should marry them into a good family, and should hand over the property to them in due course. Second, the relation between teacher and pupil. A pupil should respect and be obedient to his teacher, should attend to his needs if any, should study earnestly, and the teacher in his turn should train and shape his pupil properly, should teach him well, should introduce him to his friends, and should try to procure him security or employment when his education is over. Third, the relation between husband and wife. Love between husband and wife is considered almost religious or sacred. It is called Sandara Brahmacharya, sacred family life. Here too, the significance of the term Brahma should be noted. The highest respect to giving to this relationship. Wife and husband should be faithful, respectful, and devoted to each other, and they have certain duty toward each other. The husband should always honor his wife and never be wanted to respect to her. He should love her and be faithful to her, should secure her position and comfort, and should please her by presenting her with clothing and jewelry. The fact that the Buddha did not forget to mention even such a thing as the gift a husband should make to his wife show how understanding and sympathetic were his human feelings towards ordinary human emotions. The wife, in her turn, should supervise and look after household affairs, should entertain guests, visitors, friends, relatives, and employees, should love and be faithful to her husband, should protect his earnings, should be clever and energetic in all activities. Fourth, the relation between friends, relatives, and neighbors. They should be hospitable and charitable to one another, should speak pleasantly and agreeably, should work for each other's welfare, should be on equal terms with one another, should not quarrel among themselves, should help each other in need, and should not forsake each other in a difficulty. Fifth, the relation between master or servant. The master or the employer has several obligations toward his servant or his employee. Work should be assigned according to ability and capacity. Accurate wage should be paid. Medical need should be provided. Occasional donation or bonus should be gained. The servant or employee in his turn should be diligent and not lazy, honest and obedient, and not cheat his master. He should be earnest in his work. 6. The relation between the religious and the lay people should look after the material need of the religious with love and respect. The religious with a loving heart should impart knowledge and learning to the laity and lead them along the good path away from evil. We see then that the lay life, with its family and social relation, is included in the noble discipline and is within the framework of the Buddhist way of life as the Buddha envisaged it. So, in the same Yutta Nikaya, one of the oldest Bali texts, Sakka, the king of the god, declared that he worshipped not only the monk who lived a virtuous holy life, but also lay disciples who perform meritorious deeds, who are virtuous and maintain their family righteously. If one decides to become a Buddhist, there is no initiation ceremony or baptism, which one has to undergo, but to become a bhikkhu, a member of the order of the Sangha. One has to undergo a long process of disciplinary training and education. If one understands the Buddha's teaching, and if one is conceived that his teaching is the right path, and if one tries to follow it, then one is a Buddhist. But according to the unbroken age-old tradition in Buddhist country, one is considered a Buddhist if one takes the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, generally called the Triple Gem, as one befriends and undertakes to observe the 5 precepts, the minimum moral obligation of a lay Buddhist. 1. Not to destroy life. 2. Not to steal. 3. Not to commit adultery. 4. Not to tell lies. 5. Not to take intoxicating drink, reciting the formulas given in the ancient texts. On religious occasion, Buddhists in congregation usually recite these formulas, following the lead of Buddhist monk. There are no external rites or ceremonies which a Buddhist has to perform. Buddhism is a way of life, and what is essential is following the Noble Eightfold Path. Of course, there are in all Buddhist countries simple and beautiful ceremonies on religious occasions. They are joined with status of Buddha. Stupa and Bo tree in monastery were Buddhist worship, offer flowers, light lamps, and burn incense. This should not be likened to prayer in Taoic religions. It is only a way of paying homage to the memory of the Master who shone the way. These traditional observances, true in essential, have their value in satisfying the religious emotion and needs of those who are less advanced intellectually and spiritually, and helping them gradually along the path. Those who think that Buddhism is interested only in lofty ideals, high moral and philosophical thought, and that it ignores the social and economic welfare of people are wrong. The Buddha was interested in the happiness of men. To him, happiness was not possible without leading a pure life based on moral and spiritual principles. But he knew that leading such a life was hard in unfavorable material and social conditions. Buddhism does not consider material welfare as an end in itself. It is only a means to an end, a higher and nobler end. But it is the means which is disciplable in achieving a higher purpose for man's happiness. So, Buddhism recognized the need of certain minimum material conditions favorable to spiritual success, even that of a monk engaged in meditation in some solitary place. The Buddha did not take life out of the context of its social and economic background. He looked at it as a whole in all its social, economic, and political aspects. His teaching on ethical, spiritual, and philosophical problems are fairly well known, but little is known, particularly in the West, about his teaching on social, economic, and political matters. Yet, there are numerous discourses dealing with these scattered throughout the ancient Buddhist texts. Let us take only a few examples. The Cakkavatti Sihana Sutta of the Tikha Nikaya clearly states that poverty is the cause of immorality and crimes, such as theft, falsehood, violence, hatred, cruelty, etc. Kings in ancient times, like governments today, tried to suppress crime through punishment. The Good Kantha Sutta of the same Nikaya expand how futile this is. It says that this method can never be successful. Instead, the Buddha suggests that in order to eradicate crime, the economic condition of the people should be improved. Grain and other facility for agriculture should be provided for farmer and cultivator. Capital should be provided for trader and those engaged in business. Adequate wages should be paid to those who are employed. When people are thus provided for with opportunities for earning a sufficient income, they will be content, will have no fear or anxiety, and consequently, the country will be peaceful and free from crime. Because of this, the Buddha told lay people how important it is to improve their economic condition. This does not mean that he improved the hoarding wealth with desire and attachment, which is against its fundamental teaching, nor did he improve of each and every way of earning one's livelihood. There are certain traits like the production and zeal of amendment, which he condemned as evil means of livelihood, as we saw earlier. A man named Tikashanu once visited the Buddha and said, "Venerable Sir, we are ordinarily laymen, leading the family life with wife and children. Would the Blessed One teach us some doctrine which will be conducive to our happiness in this world and hereafter?" The Buddha tells him that there are 4 things which are conducive to immense happiness in this world. First, he should be skilled, efficient, earnest, and energetic in whatever profession he is engaged, and he should know it well. Second, he should protect his income, which he has just earned righteously with the sweat of his blood. This refers to protecting wealth from theft, etc. All this idea should be considered against the background of the period. Third, he should have a good friend who are faithful, learned, virtuous, liberal, and intelligent, who will help him along the right path away from evil. Fourth, he should spend reasonably in proportion to this income, neither too much nor too little. He should not hoard wealth avariciously, nor should he be extravagant. In other words, he should live within his means. Then the Buddha expounds the 4 virtues conducive to a layman's happiness hereafter. 1. Sattha. He should have faith and confidence in moral, spiritual, and intellectual values.